What's going on, guys? Welcome into the channel. Today, it's Garage Sale Bootcamp.
Mountain Man.
Treasures.
Thanks for joining us. My name is Troy. I'm a part-time reseller based out of Montana. I've been doing this for years now. The YouTube channel, working on about a year and a half old now. And I put up a poll on my community tab a little bit ago and asked, how long have you been doing this? I was surprised to see that there was a pretty significant number of people that are even in 0 to 3 months or 0 to 6 months. You know, there's people that have been doing this for less than a year. And so that was a good reminder to me that sometimes it's good to go back to the basics, right? And it's good for all of us to maybe get a refresher. And so today we're going to go back and look at how do you get ready? How do you go to garage sales? It might sound a little remedial for some of you. I know some people that are watching have been doing this for 20 years. But for a lot of folks, this is information that is valuable. And I still remember going to my first few garage sales as a reseller. It's a little intimidating, right? And you're not exactly sure how this all works. And so we're going to go over some of that. And hopefully there are some tips in this that will help you. And the first thing that I've got to tell you, research. And I guess maybe this is step one of that research, right? But research where the garage sales are. We don't have yard sale treasure map anymore. That was an incredible tool to see what was out there all in one spot and also put it on the map, help us plan our route, that sort of thing. We don't have that anymore, right? So we got to do a little bit more groundwork on our own. So on Thursday, start getting ready. On Friday, start getting ready. What does that mean? Well, that means go to Craigslist now yourself. They have an app, so you can go to the Craigslist app or go online, look at the garage sales in your community, write them down. Usually what I do is I go through and I write down starting times. So sometimes we get garage sales starting at 7 here. Very often it's 8 or 9 or then later, like at 10 o'clock. So I sort of grid the thing out and list the times. And then when I go through, I'm writing addresses underneath those times, right? I'm writing, 1030 Elm Street, and then I write the hours that it goes to, 8 to 12. And then I write, just to remind myself when I get done with it all, I write some of the stuff that they have or some of the stuff that stuck out to me that I might be interested in. So it might be video games, and I'll just write down video games. It might be hunting clothes. It might be whatever it is, just to sort of give that mental cue in my brain of, oh yeah, that's this sale. Because coming up, we're going to have to rank these, right? So go through right where it is, how long it goes, and what they have, right? And now you can find this, like I said, at Craigslist. You can find it in the newspaper. So either in the print or most of them, go online. You can look at the garage sale listings online as well. Look at them there. Join Facebook groups. That's where I find a lot of ours. We have a Helena classifieds. We have two Helena classifieds. We've got one that's specifically yard sales. It's a little bit splintered, right? It's all over the place, but every one of them, somebody's going to post something, and they might not post it in all of them. So join some local groups and look on there because they are going to get posted in the local groups. That's going to be a fantastic source for you to find them. So now you've got them all written down, right? You've got a sheet. Well, now we've got to figure out, where do we go? How do we decide where we're going to go? And that is number 2, plan your route. Now, this is going to depend a little bit on personal preference and on, you're sort of trying to get in the head of the other resellers as well. It's a little bit of a roll of dice, right? There are different things that you can look at to decide, where should I go first? Look for community sales. Community sales meaning the entire neighborhood gets together and they decide, hey, let's have all of our garage sales on the same day. Why is that good? Well, that's because you can go from house to house to house to house really quickly. You're not wasting driving time. A lot of times I'll park in the middle of a block and then you just walk the block. Right? You just go from house to house. Maybe there's a community sale that you want to hit. Okay. So that ranks high. What about church sales? I absolutely love going to church sales because the prices are fantastic. There is zero attachment to anything that they're selling here, right? They're just trying to sell all the stuff that people donated and make a little bit of money. That means you're going to get great deals. You can get fantastic deals for a whole lot of items. You can buy bulk at church sales. So maybe there's a church sale. You want to start out there. Maybe there's just sort of a cluster because you think, well, there's like 4 or 5 of them all starting at the same time in the same, 10 block radius, whatever it is. I can go from this one to this one to this one to this one relatively quickly. Okay, maybe that's what you want to do. And those are all great. Sometimes you look at those and think, well, there's a whole lot of, because you're going to have competition wherever you are, right? No matter how small your community, there are going to be other people doing what you do. They're going to pick up the stuff that you would otherwise pick up. The other option, look outside that box. Think a little bit different. A lot of times I found some of the best garage sales I've been to have been out of town. Not as many people are going there. A lot of times people outside of town, they've got some land and they've got access to water or whatever it is. So they've got toys, right? They've got a whole lot of cool stuff. You can find great stuff outside of town. So maybe you look at the map and think, you know what? Everybody's going to be going to these 8 garage sales. There's one that's 20 minutes away. I'm going to go there. I might be the only one there. You might not be, or you may be, and it may be a bust, right? I mean, this is all a roll of the dice. Or, again, you got to look at the listings. What do they have? Do they have something that's in your niche? Maybe it doesn't matter what else is around there. If they have something that's in your niche, or they say, we got a whole bunch of old video games, maybe that's where you want to go. But recognize there's other people looking for that stuff. There are other people that are going to be there. But something else to be aware of, though, guys, is be flexible, right? Because you might be out there driving around, see a sign and think, oh, I'm going to go check that out, but it's not next on my list. That's okay. You're going to find unadvertised garage sales, and very often those are great because you have to just drive by and luck into it. So be a little bit flexible. Be willing to change your plan based on what's happening during the day. Okay, the next thing that you want to be ready for is, well, you're going to get up early. You're going to get up while it's dark, guys. And especially for part-time folks like me, that Saturday is the first day I get a chance to sleep in. Sometimes it's hard to get up early. So make sure you set that alarm, set a backup to the backup. You're going to get up early, and you've got to be ready to get out before that first garage sale. Now, I'm a proponent of showing up to garage sales early. Okay. Very often you can get good deals. And if you can hit a garage sale 20 minutes before it's set to open and then get to another garage sale even before it's set to open, that's great. I mean, you want to make good use of your time. I am not a proponent of being the people. I mean, I don't know how many people running garage sales that I talk to say people are showing up 3-4 hours early. That's crazy. I guess if that's the way you want to do it, go ahead and do it. I can't do it that way. I can't recommend people do it that way because, frankly, I think that's super obnoxious. I don't think you have to be that person. I don't think you have to be there that early. I've heard stories of people knocking on house doors asking when they're going to be ready. Don't do that. Don't go up to people's houses. Don't be sensible here, but leave early. Get there. I usually try to get to places about a half hour early. Now, sometimes you can tell that they're not ready. They're just pulling stuff out, or they're going to say, you walk up and you say, hey, am I too early? And they say, yes. Okay. Respect that. But if you've got your plan, and I usually have it written all out, it's on a sheet of paper, go to number 2. If it's close, see if they're ready. Right. And nobody's got to get into that garage sale early because they already told you. So all your competitors, they're not going to get in early either. So go to the next one on the list. You might just get in that one early, and then you can zip back to number 2. Again, that goes back to being flexible. One thing I will point out, and maybe it slips back into one of these numbers because now we've left the house, right? You want to have your money ready, right? You don't want to have to go to the ATM and get the money. I don't know how many Saturdays I've realized that I didn't do this. So this is one that I struggle with sometimes because I'm part-time. I might not necessarily have my money ready, and that's going to take time away. And you're going to have to either get out earlier, or you're going to get to places later than you thought. So make sure that you've got all your money that you're going to spend early. And I would also recommend bringing more money than you think you're going to spend, because you don't know when you're going to walk into one of those great deals, and you don't want to walk away thinking, man, if I only had a little bit more money. Bring more than you think you're going to need. Now you are at your first garage sale, especially if you're early. This is going to be a natural thing because you're going to have to ask them a question, right? Because you're getting there before the time they said they're supposed to start. So if you get somewhere early, the easiest thing to do is say, hey, am I too early? Guess what you've done? You've started a conversation, and that is the next thing on the list. Chat with these people. This is not the hardware store. Don't walk in and just start roaming the shelves, right? Walk in, you are going through people's personal property, right? So be kind about it. I've put on garage sales. It's a pain. It takes a lot of time. So be nice to these people. It's nice to be nice. If you just look at this just analytically, right? If you chat with people, if you build just a micro relationship, you're never going to see most of these people ever again. Be kind. However brief, you're building a relationship, and that very often pays off. Well, let's put person one and person two next to each other. Person one that just walks into a place, picks up stuff and says, how much? Okay. Or person two that walks up and says, hey, can I pet your dog? Always pet the dogs, guys. Nobody has to tell me that anyway, but that's another thing. You're showing like you're a human person, right? So ask if you can pet the dog. Ask, hey, is it too early or can I look around? It doesn't have to be complicated. Ask about the weather. If you get there later in the day, hey, have you been busy? Been getting rid of stuff? You're on their team, right? You're cheering for them. All of a sudden, they kind of like you a little bit. Who's going to get the better deal? The person that just walked in and walked up with stuff, or the person that now they've built sort of a rapport with and they've chatted with you a little bit. They like you as a person. You might get a better deal. Always chat with the people, guys, every single time. Side note for this one, something that I've started to do, and I think it works, is wear something fun. I like wearing fun shirts anyway, especially on Saturdays. So I'll wear a fun t-shirt, wear a fun hat, whatever it is. What I've actually started to do very often, going to garage sales, I have a couple of shirts that I wear very often. I wear my vintage logo athletic Troy Aikman Dallas Cowboys jersey, and I wear my vintage green Notre Dame jersey. Why? Well, I'm a fan of both of those teams, right? But they're a love it or hate it team. So if you come upon anybody that cares about sports at their garage sale, they're either going to love your team or they're going to hate your team. And so I don't know how many times that I've been able to build that rapport we're talking about because of my shirt. I actually just yesterday, as I'm recording this, just yesterday, I went to a garage sale. I was wearing Aikman, and the lady says, oh, you're in the right place. I love your shirt. She was from Texas. She's a Cowboys fan. Now, usually it works the other way, but we automatically had a connection. There was a connection. And if they hate it, then all of a sudden you've got that sort of fun rivalry thing, right? Because they're going to be a fan of a team that maybe you don't like, right? And so you can kind of start jabbing and sparring with them. That builds a great relationship. And so I love wearing my sports jerseys to garage sales because it automatically sometimes triggers that conversation. I've gotten great deals because of that. So something to think about. And plus, you know what? Both of those are thrifted. I think it's sort of, it's giving offerings to the garage sale gods, right? Wear thrifted items to the thrift store or to the garage sale. Can't hurt, right? You've gotten ready. You had your money. You got your coffee. You got there early. You asked permission to look through their stuff early. You wore your Cowboys jersey. Okay, now you've picked up your stuff, right? And we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But one point I want to make is that it is okay, and you should most often haggle. Now, sometimes you're going to come upon some garage sales where the prices are just right. Or you're going to come upon garage sales where the people are so kind, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to give them whatever they want. It happens. But generally, it's a good idea to haggle, guys. What's the worst that can happen? They're going to say no, and you're going to pay what they were asking already. That's it. Like, you're not going to offend them. People are going to be doing this all day long. They're going to be offering them prices. This is not something that's going to 9 out of 10, even more than that, are not going to get offended by this. Okay. It is okay. And it is a good thing to haggle. Now, I know if you're new, if you're just getting started, it's a little uncomfortable, right? It feels awkward, but you know what? So often it works. And this business, it's all about return on investment. You want to get the lowest price you can. Now, you don't want to treat people unfairly, but you're giving them the offer, right? They have the opportunity to say no. I don't know how many times that I've picked up, 2 t-shirts, and one of them says $2 and one of them says $1. And you go up and you say, would you take $2 for both? And they'll go, sure. You essentially just said, hey, I'll pay for this shirt. Can I have this one for free? And they don't care. They just want the stuff gone more often than not. So be willing to do that. And practice with it. I mean, it's something that it takes time to develop. It's a talent, it's a skill, and you're only going to get better at it as you do it more often. So you want to haggle. And you know what, guys? That's fun. So when it comes to finding the stuff, right? I'm not going to tell you what stuff to pick up. I mean, that's not what this video is. It's very dependent on you. It's very dependent on what you know, what you like, what your business model is. There's a lot of things that go into that, right? So this isn't really the part of the video where I say, okay, here's the list of things at garage sales that you need to pick up. But I am going to tell you that very often you're going to find more than one thing that you like. Build a pile. And I like using that word. Pick up maybe 2 things, maybe you have 3 things. Whoever's in charge, you've already chatted with them, right? You're already friendly. You say, hey, is it okay if I start a pile over here? And they'll always say, sure. And I always like to say, this is the throw-in line. And you can use these lines at every garage sale. It doesn't matter, because you find the ones that work, the ones you like, it's okay to reuse them. Often I'll ask if it's okay to start a pile. And of course, they're going to say yes. And I say, well, you know, that's good. You know what you're doing, because the more things I put down, the more things I can pick up. That puts in their brain, hey, this person's buying more. It's a fun thing to say, and they like it. And so I use it. Now, usually what I do, I cruise their area first really quickly. I go through and I'm looking for the low-hanging fruit. I'm looking for the stuff that I know, right? You want to sort of scan the place really quickly and grab what you want to grab, okay? And then I like to go back around, and that's when you look at things a little bit more. But mostly that first time, it's the speed reading. It's seeing, is there anything here that I know I want to grab and that I want to grab before that guy grabs it, right? So that's when you grab the stuff and say, hey, can I start a pile? Then you go back and you start looking through the stuff more and taking a look at stuff. Now, sometimes I will pick up, if I can see I'm going to be grabbing a whole bunch of stuff here, sometimes I pick up stuff that's borderline that I'm like, I could take it or leave it, because I'm adding it to the pile, right? And pile, again, it's a keyword. We're going to talk about that. Sometimes even I grab something that I think is a little high priced, and I'll put that in the pile as well. Something that I don't necessarily care if I take it or leave it. I can make money on it, but if I leave it, it's fine. I don't care. I'm going to pick up that too. Why? Well, here's what we do. We put everything into the pile. What you want to do with that is get a bulk price. So you walk over and you say, okay, I typically say, I mean, it's Mountain Man treasure, right? I walk over and say, okay, I think I found all my treasures. What do you think for all of this? You don't want them to go through, and in their mind, they're going to go through and they're going to go, okay, well, that's $2. I want $5 for that. They're going to add it up a little bit, right? But you want to create that pile and you want to ask them all of this, how much? Because it's going to be cheaper if they give you one price than whether they pull out the calculator and they're adding up each individual price. That's number one. You also want them to see that's a lot of stuff this person is buying, right? Because then they're willing to very often give you a better deal because you're buying in bulk. Okay. It's just human nature. They're going to give you a better deal. And something that I like to do, they're going to throw a number at you. They say, how about $42? A lot of times what I like to do is go, would you take 40? And then I follow that up. So what it is they say, how about $42? Would you take 40? Because then you don't even have to worry about change. All of a sudden I'm asking for a discount. And the reason I'm asking for a discount is because it's easier for you. You'd be surprised how often that works, guys. Then you don't have to worry about giving me any change, because then you can give them 220s, right? You got to be sure that you have exact change. But at garage sales, people run out of ones, right? And so then in their brain, they're going, well, I have to give out at least 3 ones or maybe 8, whatever it is. They might want to hang on to their ones, or just in general, they might go, okay, yeah, that's fine. Because it's $2 off. They don't have to give any change. You give them 220s and you call it a day. You just save $2. Now, if they give you a price that is too high, there's a couple things here. First, recognize the power of silence. Silence is a huge thing, guys. People like to fill silence. You ever recognize how it's awkward when you're in an elevator because nobody's talking, right? Use that in your negotiation. They throw a price at you, just sit there for a little bit and look at it. It's going to feel uncomfortable for you, but they're going to feel uncomfortable too, because they want to fill the silence. And so sometimes they will lower the price for you without you even asking. Recognize that there's some power in silence and wait for them to break it. Make it a game inside your head. Like, how long can I go before he says something next? But remember, we talked about grabbing things that you didn't necessarily care about. If they give you a price that's just too high, that you just don't want to pay, that's when you go and grab those things that you didn't really want to buy anyway. Sometimes something that is overpriced, right? Or that's priced pretty high. Obviously, they value that. Take that out and say, you know what? What if I leave this? Because I could probably do without that. What if I leave this what's a doodle that they've priced at $15, right? Set that back on the table. What do you think now? Well, you've taken out the thing that they obviously already really valued. Now all of a sudden that pile is going to go down and you've done nothing but take out something that you didn't really want. Better deal, right? Part of all this is understanding there's a lot of psychology involved in this, guys. It's understanding why are they having this garage sale in the first place. And that's going to come in with a chat, right? If you're having a conversation with them, even for 2 minutes, I think that is very important, is finding out why are you having this garage sale? Because that speaks to motivation. Now, sometimes it's people that are trying to get their money back out of what they paid for it, right? You can see that when the prices are all very high, they're thinking, I want to recoup my losses for this item. But more often than not, it's a moving sale or it is a clearing space sale. Okay. Very often those are the two things. So, while you walk in, hey, you mind if I pet the dog? Pet the dog. How's it been today? Pretty good. You guys getting rid of stuff? And they're going to tell you, oh yeah, a little bit. We were pretty busy. It's slowed down a little bit. What are you just trying to make space? Are y'all moving or what? Now all of a sudden they're going to tell you why they're getting rid of stuff. Now you have their motivation. And if they're trying to make money off of it, you're going to generally be able to tell. If they're moving or if they're getting rid of stuff, they're just clearing space. That means they don't care about a lot of this stuff because they want it gone. That plays into your hands because when you're negotiating, when you throw out a number, now generally you want them to throw out the first number, right? You don't want to throw out the first number because if you say, I'll give you $30 and they were thinking 20, you've now lost $10. Try to get them to throw out that first number. And while you're haggling back and forth, that's when you throw in, they say $42. What if you only want to pay 30? That's when I throw out there something like, you know what? I could, and hem and haw, right? I could do 30. Would you take 30? And then you never have to see this stuff again. I will take it out of your sight. You never have to see it again. If they're just looking to get rid of stuff, that's a motivator, right? Then that triggers in their brain. That's right. I actually didn't want this stuff. If they're moving, how about $30? Then you don't have to pack this stuff up and take it with you. And I will do it for you. All of a sudden, now you're doing them a favor again. It's all about motivations. It's all about, those little verbal cues because you want them to think about how you're doing them a favor. Okay. That's why I love the haggling, guys. It's a game you're playing. They don't know that they're necessarily playing the game, but I enjoy playing games. And this is a little game that I get to play and get to see if I win. Another thing that I every once in a while employ is if I see something that's high priced, but it's still a good value for me, right? Like this is a large amount of money to drop on something, a significant amount of money, but it's a great price and I'm going to be able to flip it. Buy that one thing first. You've already gone through all the steps. You pet the dog, you chatted, but you just pay their price, right? They have something for $40. You can flip it for 100 easy. Say, I'll take this. And you just give them the $40. Now I'm going to look around and see if I can find some more stuff. Okay. Well, they're walking around with your $40 in their hand. You've already become a customer. You've got a rapport. Now, when you're negotiating over your pile, in the back of their mind, they're realizing, well, this person did already give me $40. Sometimes you can get a better deal. So that's just one other thing. I mean, all of this is sort of contingent on how the situation feels, right? You just have to decide how it feels. And that's when you play whatever card you think is best to play, right? Again, we're playing a game here. But the price isn't always going to work, guys. I mean, there's times where it's just not going to match. Don't feel pressured into buying. You don't have to buy that thing because there's another garage sale on your list. And if there's not, there are more next week. The numbers have to make sense. So don't feel like if the numbers don't work, even if it's a great item, it sells great, it sells for great money. If you're not comfortable doing it, don't do it. You can say, and I usually do, especially if I don't buy anything, typically I just like to be, again, like to be a nice person. And I thank them. I say, hey, I don't see anything for me today, but thanks for letting me look through your stuff. I sure appreciate it. Just be a good person, but be prepared to walk away if they give you a price and they're just not going to budge, and it's not going to, you guys aren't going to meet in the middle. It's okay to say, you know what, I don't think that one works out for me, but I appreciate it. Thanks much. One, again, no pressure, but two, sometimes that's enough for them to negotiate. Sometimes all you got to do is walk away, and literally turn to walk away. There's been times where I've turned to walk away and all of a sudden they'll try to meet you in the middle, and they'll throw a lower number at you. And it might be enough. That might be enough where now the numbers make sense. Another thing is ask for whatever. If you have some particular niche or something that you enjoy selling, ask about it. Again, the worst they can do is say no, right? So if you like selling video games, and I do this often because video games sell very well, especially if you're a newer seller. Some of them sell for lower dollar amounts, but they move very quickly, and that's a great way to build up your account and get in the habit of buying and selling and shipping and that sort of thing. Video games are great for that very often. And so a lot of times I'll go to the garage sales, and during your chat, right? You don't happen to have any video games, do you? Every once in a while, they'll say, you know what? I do have some. We haven't brought those out yet. I had that last season. Actually didn't end up buying them, as it turned out, because they weren't great titles. But they said, you know what? He actually said, I was going to save those for my brother-in-law, but he never showed up yesterday. So yeah, let me grab them. And he brought out a box. Now, if they'd have been great games, that'd have been fantastic. It turned out that they didn't work out for me, but I gave myself a shot. And don't even necessarily, if you see something else in the garage, this is, it's still kind of interesting to me. I went to a garage sale 2 summers ago now. Or actually, if you count this summer, it's maybe 3 ago. It's several years ago. Went to this garage sale, and 98% of what this lady had was just kids' clothes. She had little kids' clothes everywhere. And so it took me 30 seconds to walk around the garage and go, yep, there's nothing here for me. And so I say, she had on the wall of the garage on the outsides stuff that was not in the sale. She had some decorations, some seasonal decorations, and there was this animatronic. It turned out I didn't actually know at the time how valuable it was, but it was this 3-headed dog, Cerberus, from Spirit Halloween. Now they've retired this thing; they don't make it anymore. It's crazy. It makes sound. It moves. You can hook a fog machine up to it. The eyes light up. I mean, it's pretty crazy. This thing was in a box against the wall, and I knew it had to be worth $50 at least, right? Like it had to be worth something. And so I told this lady, I said, you know what? And this was like midday, right? Like her sale had been going on for a long time. I said, you know what? I don't see anything here for me, but I appreciate you letting me look. I said, now, if that was for sale, I'd be game. I was kind of just joking, right? She goes, well, it might be for sale for the right price. This is not a part of her sale, right? Literally, this is just one of her belongings that I looked at and said, hey, I like that. And I said, well, what would the right price be? She goes, I don't know. How about $10? Done. So at a garage sale full of little kid clothes, I pulled out what I wound up selling a month or so later for $350 plus shipping for $10. Because I asked, right? I made a comment, I pointed, I had a conversation, and I asked. You can get some big wins just by being personable and by asking, being willing to ask. Because she, what does she say? Oh, no, that's mine. I love that. Oh, I don't blame you. But again, have a nice day. The conversation's still going to end on a good note, but it ended on a great note because she sold this thing to me, and I sold it for $350, guys. That was a huge win. That's still one of my best sales, just because I love how it came about, and the return on investment was ridiculous. So I love that sale. I'm going to always remember that sale. It was still pretty early in my reselling career, so that's one that I'm going to remember for a long time. And that was when that lesson was hammered home of being willing to ask. Most times they're going to say no. Most times, nope, sorry, we don't have those, or nope, sorry, the kids aren't selling those, or whatever it is. But every once in a while, you're going to win. So that is today's garage sale boot camp, guys. I know that the video got a little bit long, But I appreciate you hanging with me. There were a lot of things to touch on, and I hope some of them were useful for you, whether you're a new reseller or whether you've been doing this for a while. Maybe there was something in there that helped you out. And if it did, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment down below. Thumbs up if this was something that was beneficial to you, and subscribe again if this was beneficial to you. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. The channel is slowly growing, and that's really exciting. I want to be able to help people out. I learned so much off of different people from YouTube that I want to give back, and I've become great friends with some other YouTubers, and I want to give back and be a part of that community. And that's why we're doing this channel. Hit that bell. That'll let you know when we put new stuff up. If you've got any comments or questions, you can leave them down below, and I'll try to get to those. Or my contact information for Instagram and email also is down below. And if you have anything that you thought, well, what about this, right? Maybe there's a topic for a future video that we didn't touch on here. Leave it down below or shoot me an email or an Instagram message, and we'll get back to you. But for now, this is getting long, so we're definitely going to cut this thing off. We'll see you guys. Bye.